Hello, good morning, welcome. I am Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. You are listening to Damn Radio, coming to you live from the Lake Ozark Real Estate of the Art Studio this 16th day of June in the year of our Lord. What year is it? We don't remember. 2026. Years just click by so quickly anymore. Who cares what people think year it is? We can just make that up as we go along. If we can identify as a monkey or identify as a I don't know what, a camel, why in the world can we not decide what year it is? Reality matters not at all. Isn't that correct? Reality has no effect on your inner self. So decide for yourselves what year it is. Choose accordingly. If you choose to dress in the clothing of the 1700s, more power to you. It's if you decide to wear a toga, well, have at it. So, that toga thing reminds me of, I went to Greece several years ago. It was very interesting. I went to Greece. I went to Athens. I saw some pretty cool places. There's a Parthenon Palace, and there's some really cool stuff to go see in Greece because it's been around a hell of a long time. But I also went to an island. So I went to Crete. Well, I went to the island of Crete. I went to Crete, and I spent a week on Crete. And the Mycenaean culture there was pretty freaking big, and they had some old castles there that UNICEF was redoing or whatever. And it was really, really cool. And the Mycenaeans are way before the Greeks even, and so it was pretty neat what they knew about it. But one of the day trips, if you wanted to get on a boat and go out in the Mediterranean somewhere, you could go out to the island of Spinalonga is what the island was called. And that Spinalonga, back in, I forget the centuries, but it was a couple hundred years that this went on is what I recall. That everybody who had leprosy was dropped off on the island. And that's where you lived. If you had leprosy, you'd go out to Spinalonga Island, and the island was, not huge, but not really, not tiny. I mean, if you had an estate on there of your own, it'd be grand, but they had a small city, not city, small town on there, stone buildings for everybody. It was, I forget the exact history of how it came to be, with all the stone walkways and paths and buildings and houses and stuff like that. And that's where you lived if you were a leper. They would drop you off over there, which I always wondered, how are they going to drop you off? I thought you didn't want to get touched by a leper. That was the whole point. Well, how are you going to drop them off if you get on a boat? What do you got to swim? And if you swim, are parts of you going to be falling off in the water? Anyway, it was rather interesting. So I'm not sure you'd want to associate with that time, is my point in this. But Spinalonga was a very cool island. The island of Crete was much better, in my opinion. And it was much larger, and there were some great sort of resorts or nice hotels and stuff that you could stay at over there. And we stayed in a reasonably decent, when I travel, I stay in apartments, or like the 2-3 bedroom places that you can rent. Some kind of like an Airbnb, like Russia. I'll always look for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath place over there. And it's harder to find there a 2-bathroom place. You're spending some money to get to that, but you can get a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, with 1 bathroom. But there's also some pretty good if you go to a city like Naberezhny Chelny or you go to Kazan, you can get some pretty cool stuff over there. And especially if you seek in advance, and if you're gonna move into one city and then branch out from there and not spend 4 days in this city, 5 days in that city and whatnot. Because if you're branching out from a spot, like when I was in Morocco, stayed in 5 different cities and went basically in around the entire country of Morocco. That's a pretty cool way to travel. So I did some Casablanca, did the capital city, which name I can't remember to save my life, and any of the all the other big cities. Marrakesh we went to, that was kind of cool, and each place we stayed in a different a different private residence, traveling like with an Airbnb kind of thing, and you can do pretty well like that going around the world. And like, it's pretty funny because their deposit rules are different. You have to learn the deposit rules before you go, and whether you get them back or not. And there are people that are, especially if you go into some of the smaller towns. I can't remember. I think it happened in Turkey, where we got into a place and it was a big house, kind of a villa thing. But boy, it was nasty. It had dogs everywhere, and then we didn't get a private spot, and he knew we'd be screwed if we got out there from the airport, because we were trying to go to the west part of Istanbul and see some things out there. Got out there so far, couldn't even rent a car. We're stuck. Uber was freaking ridiculous. And this guy lived like on a stinky, smelly sheep farm. He had a bunch of sheep and goats in the front yard, and he was just basically, we're like, wait a minute, this is not at all what it said in the advertisement. And you get over there, and he's like, well, but it's really nice. It's like, so what? You'll join us for dinner? But no, that is not what we're going to do. We're not going to join you for dinner, and we're not going to stay in the house with you. No. And it was it was a weird scenario. Anyway, be careful when you go to Istanbul that you don't get Hamad, the guy who's gonna, I don't know what, if put you out to work on his farm or something. You can't get anywhere. And we took had to get an Uber all the way out there, and that was. It wouldn't have been too bad, but we couldn't get a car till the next day, and it wasn't like it was like, well, let's stay here one night. Nah, I wasn't even going to do that, so I didn't. Anyway, when you travel, sometimes you got to watch out for stuff like that, and sometimes it works out well, and sometimes it does not. So there's plenty of things going on in the world today, and lots of news. So the G7 was going on yesterday. We had some stories I'd like to share with you. The Netherlands. Here you go. I want to share this story with you. There's a couple of crazy ones. And here's one. The Dutch military has taken out a test where they created a mock prisoner of war camp for Russians. And so this is the Netherlands, the Dutch, they nuts. The Dutch crazies are all trying to create prisoner of war camps for Russians. The Dutch media reported last week that the Netherlands army is test running a new POW camp at the Marnehuizen training facility in Groningen, preparing to hold up to 2,000 Russian captives in the event of a conflict. The facility reportedly features barracks housing groups of roughly 20 detainees, seeks to replace traditional watchtowers with guards by camera-equipped poles. Monitoring will be carried out by drones. So in a statement on Monday, the Russian embassy slammed the drill and said it's difficult to comment on such blasphemy, which unfortunately are becoming an everyday routine in the Netherlands. The Russian diplomats in the Netherlands have called the Soviet Union's role in World War II, said that Russia has a historical experience of liberating such camps in Europe and rescuing their prisoners from the atrocities of the Nazis. It is regrettable that similar ideas are still arising in the 21st century. The European hotheads should understand that if Europe unleashes a war against Russia, prisoner of war camps will certainly be of no use there. Meaning we'll kick your ass. So the test follows the hysteria triggered last year when numerous reported drone sightings over the Netherlands and Belgium disrupted civilian air traffic, while some EU officials pointed to Russian involvement, Russian disinformation. They failed to provide any evidence. And analysts later suggested the sightings might not even have involved drones at all. Russia, of course, denies involvement, drone or no drone. We weren't involved. And so in Belgium, the defense minister, Theo Franken, one of the main proponents of the frantic $58 million campaign to deploy anti-drone measures, has come under attack with accusations that the purchases are not subject to standard public tender pricing. After the escalation of the Ukraine conflict, numerous Western officials have speculated that Russia could attack NATO within years, a claim that President Vladimir Putin dismisses as not only pure insanity, but a deliberate provocation. Isn't this crazy? Well, there was an article, I was interested, allegedly the Iran war is over again. It's been over, I don't know how many times, and I thought it'd be interesting to share this. We have some interesting discussion today. The Hague has rejected Ukraine's Crimea claims. The roadmap, what is and isn't known of the deal with the Iran is kind of crazy. But if you're going to go straight from the Israelis who are reacting with anger and anxiety to the New Deal, it can't be good for them. After 3.5 months of fighting and back and forth, the U.S. has announced, Donald Trump has announced, that Washington and Tehran, alongside Pakistani mediators, have reached a final agreement to end hostilities, right? We wonder. The deal is expected to be signed in Geneva on June the 19th. That'll be exciting for us. Keep an eye on this. I have my doubts. We shall see. According to reports, nobody knows the actual anything because nobody wants to give you any information. Apparently it's over, though. According to the reports, though, the memorandum stipulates that upon signing, both sides will declare immediate, complete, permanent end to all hostilities across the region. Now, this I don't believe because Israel will never agree. They love hostility. This is what they live for, including in Lebanon. Right. The blockade on Iran will be lifted. Washington will commit not to interfere in Iran's domestic affairs. They will refrain from increasing troop levels in the region and release half of Iran's frozen assets, which total approximately $12 billion. In exchange, Iran will reaffirm its commitment to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So they aren't going to proliferate. They're a subject of it. Israel is not, by the way. And they will confirm that it will never produce, develop, or acquire nuclear weapons. Tehran would also reopen the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic within 30 days, according to arrangements specified by Iran. Israel has not taken this news lightly. Opposition leader Yair Lapid has said that the emerging agreement achieves none of Israel's goals. Yeah, they want the total destruction of the region and them to get everything. All land, all Arabs, get out. That is basically the Israeli philosophy, right? Get out. None of you belong here. We're it. It's our homeland. Every single bit of it, none of it belongs to you. So get out. And that's the none of the Israel's goals. Israel's goal, death to everyone except us. I don't mean to laugh about that, but those people are out there. They just kill with a pleasure. They just time to kill. Guess we'll join the army. And everybody does, and everybody wants to be involved in the killing. So the regime, none of Israelis' goals, here's the problem. The regime, Iranian, survives. The missile program remains intact. Well, Jesus, what are you doing? You're bombing all day, every day. Send some more missiles. And that's okay. Nobody's supposed to complain about that, but by God, nobody else better fire back. That would suck. You can't. That doesn't reach our goals. We want to be able to fire at will with zero being lobbed back in our direction. And Iran retains the ability to rebuild its nuclear program. Why can't they have nuclear power? I saw this. Did you see this yesterday? The B-2 bomber crashed. I saw that too. I was trying to get some more. Looks like 8 people were dead in that. That's unfortunate. But anyway, this Yair Lapid says this is a complete failure by Netanyahu. And in the process, he's turning Israel into a client state that takes orders on matters of its own national security. They've gotten to do whatever they want, whenever they want, forever. So I disagree with that statement. Another opposition figure, another guy named Yair, this one Yair Golan, was equally blunt, described the policy as a failure. Trump is signing an agreement that funnels billions of dollars to the Ayatollah regime, leaves the nuclear infrastructure intact, preserves the ballistic threat as it is, and throws a lifeline to the murderous regime in Tehran. Well, murderous. They must all be murderous bastards. So I got a letter not long ago, maybe I'll share with you, that refers to people as murderous bastards. And, this is very similar, it sounds like. The throws a lifeline to the murderous regime in Tehran. Look at yourself, friends and neighbors. This Yair, who's murderous when all we want to do is destroy Iran? I mean, they've been pretty open about it. You're bombing girls' schools, and there you go. But the frustration isn't limited to only politicians. Conversations with ordinary Israelis paint a picture of disappointment, anxiety, they're all very anxious, and a growing sense that the historic opportunity to destroy Iran may have been squandered. A 30-year-old Tel Aviv student named Mor Cohen believes the agreement has missed a chance to finish the job. Okay, now I'm sharing this with you. This is how these people think. We need to destroy a culture. We need to destroy genocide. This is exactly what they are after. So this Moore Cohen, the 37-year-old student, said, this deal guarantees another war in the future because everything that mattered to Israel was left unaddressed, and the issues that concern us the most remain unresolved. Well, if you hadn't lied about the necessity of as a government, not him, as a government of the necessity to destroy Iran in Lebanon and all your neighbors in the first place, perhaps if you played better neighbor, you wouldn't need to worry about destroying the countries that surround you. But they won't do that. Anyway, the concerns that she has are not without basis. According to estimates, before the war, Iran possessed roughly 3,000 missiles, including long-range capable systems of traveling up to 2,000 kilometers. And although the conflict reportedly has cut that arsenal in half, there remain up to 1,500 missiles, which still represents a serious threat to Israel. Nor have nuclear weapons or Israel's nuclear concerns been fully addressed. While Washington insists that Iran would never have nuclear weapons, it offers no concrete guarantee to Israel. Listen, all we do is lick the rear end of Israel. I mean, what sort of guarantee do you want? The guarantee is we're going to lick the rear end of Israel. You know, Lindsey Graham and company are going to just keep on passing more that way and spend half the budget, military budget of trillions of dollars now, funding Israel. You know, they'll always be top of the list, above us, above America, the homeland, above us. It's Israel. Israel gets to direct that. In my humble opinion, I don't believe that we ever refuse anything to them. I'd like to see it. Arguably, this is the first, perhaps, refusal, if you want to call it that. I don't call it that. The American officials haven't directly addressed the issues of Iran's regional proxies, like Hezbollah in the north, Houthis in the south, both of which continue to challenge Israel. Somebody ought to challenge them through sporadic rocket and drone attacks. The general feeling on the street is that Trump has sold us out. Yeah, but you tricked him into getting involved in the first place, is my argument. This was said by Matt Mayor Attias? I don't know how to say that. 56-year-old resident of Haifa. Americans don't understand the Middle East, he said. Iran has fed them a narrative, and they bought it because either they genuinely believed it or because they were tired of dealing with the conflict. Midterm elections are coming up, and politicians need the support of their voters. In this equation, Israel sits at the bottom of the priority list. Well, don't worry, Mayor, because as soon as the elections are over, we don't matter either. And you will go back up to the top of the list. And the Lindsey Grahams of the world will fund you full of all kinds of weaponry. And you can go back to destroying your neighbors unhindered in your efforts. He shared the assessment, argued that American policy is driven by interests rather than alliances. Well, don't get me started on that. But according to Moore, Trump has his own agenda. Today, he might be Netanyahu's best friend. Tomorrow, he could be Kim Jong-un's best friend if that serves his interests. It depends on what benefits him personally and politically. For many Israelis, such fears are reinforced by past examples. In 2021, thousands of Afghans who worked alongside the U.S. as interpreters, guides, and government partners were left behind during America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. And later, many faced retaliation from the Taliban, which prompted criticism from veterans, lawmakers, and policy analysts. 2 years earlier, in 2019, Trump himself ordered U.S. troops to pull back from the parts of northern Syria, paving the way for Turkish military operations against Kurdish forces that served as Washington's primary ground partner in the fight against ISIS. So the sense of abandonment comes at a heavy cost, and came at a heavy cost, for both the Kurds and the Afghans. But Moore and Mayor believe that Israel, unlike these other allies, would not be easy prey. That's because they know that we're always going to back them up without question anyway, and all they have to do is do it themselves, right? And this after elections. Maybe for the next few months somebody's going to have to be careful, but he says, we're not easy prey. We're well-equipped, highly trained, and determined to survive. With or without America, we will remain resilient and do whatever is necessary to defend ourselves. The reality is that Israel may ultimately have to finish the job on its own. So they're going to do it anyway. Whether in Lebanon or Iran, our security must remain the top priority, regardless of whether the old Trumpster approves. Those sentiments come as earlier today, the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, issued a written statement signaling that Western Jerusalem is prepared to respond forcefully if Iran intervenes in any future confrontation involving Hezbollah. We will not compromise on Israel's supreme security interest or the protection of our citizens, meaning their direct attacks. They start it, and then they well, look, somebody else is fighting. Well, they're fighting because you started it. That's how it works. And we will not withdraw from the security zone, the statement said. If Iran attacks Israel because of events in Lebanon, we will strike it with full force and demonstrate the disparity in power between us, it concluded. That was that Katz guy. Whether Israel would have the freedom to act independently remains an open question. Israel is the largest recipient of American military assistance. And that, in and of itself, is crap. No doubt. And any serious rift with Washington might carry significant consequences. And during the Gaza war, President Biden temporarily paused shipments of certain heavy munitions, including 2,000-pound bombs, over concerns regarding civilian casualties in densely populated areas. But Israel isn't worried about those. They don't mind that. That is what they are intended to do, is to destroy the entire population so they can come in and take over the land. Same concept. Trump could choose a similar course if Israel acts against Washington. But not everyone sees disagreement as a strategic defeat. For some Israelis, the prospect of avoiding another large-scale conflict outweighs the concern surrounding the deal. Lilac Calderon, a 40-year-old mother of three, says the war with Iran has taken a severe emotional toll on ordinary families. The war with Iran is deeply traumatic, especially for families like mine. My husband serves in the reserves, and worrying about his safety has kept me awake night after night. When we heard about the agreement, our family felt genuine relief because it means lives may be spared, and soldiers will not be forced to spend 50 or more consecutive days serving across multiple fronts. I meant to look into that and see how that worked. So think about this. They only have to go 50 days at a time. For a small country of 10 million people, that kind of burden is unsustainable, she said. Some experts are equally unconvinced that Israel can sustain a prolonged military campaign if it chose to act independently. A Israel military veteran and security analyst, one Amir Oren, argues that the country's ability to wage a long war on its own against Iran or Hezbollah is constrained by strategic and political reality. He said, in the case of Iran, obvious regime change is not achievable. Well, that's clear. As assassinations did not have the desired effect and no revolution ensued. Destroying nuclear targets proved to have some effect, but not for long. Ditto the ballistic missile infrastructure. At the same time, Israel will be struck, its interception arsenal will dwindle, and American support is no longer assured. Therefore, short of an emergency surgical operation against an existential peril, that's what they all get to claim, existential peril. What about the existential peril to Iran? Such as a nuclear-tipped missile ready to be launched, a campaign would not be sustainable. With domestic support quickly denied for the government, if headed by the untrustworthy Netanyahu, according to this guy. As for Lebanon, there's a constant public outcry at the harassment Hezbollah manages to present to Galilee communities. There's a demand that the government do away with the Iranian-backed Shiite terror group, but this is far easier said than done. Short of a full occupation of Lebanon, which neither the Israeli public nor any global Arab power will support, Hezbollah will be able to regroup and rocket from areas outside of Beirut and southern Lebanon. A diplomatic arrangement mobilizing the moderate government of Lebanon against Hezbollah seems like the optimal way out of this crisis. The IDF, if deployed properly and on alert, having learned the terrible lessons of October 7, will always be able to defend Israel proper. But as for offensive operations, attrition war, or casualty-ridden campaigns, there is little to suggest that they would be sustainable. The attrition war. As diplomats prepare to gather in Geneva, the agreement may have succeeded in stopping a war. Whether it secured a lasting peace or merely postponed the next conflict remains a question that hangs over Israel. One thing is for certain. While the guns may be falling silent, the battle over what this means for Israel has only just begun. We've only just begun. Let's sing some Carpenters, shall we? Maybe we'll put some Carpenters on the news. Wouldn't that be fantabulous? Let's see. Let us see what shall be seen. Hello, caller. What do you have to say for yourself?
Hello?
Hello, caller. What do you have to say for yourself?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I got to turn the volume up. Hang on a second, okay?
You got to turn the volume down.
I'm sorry. Okay, hey, I have a question for you about Nicolas Maduro.
Okay.
If China was to helicopter down on Mar-a-Lago and whisk the president away in shackles and Melania in shackles and take them off to a kangaroo trial like happened to Maduro, are you okay with that?
No, I think I've been pretty clear that it never should have happened anyway.
Well, I know, but now that it has, wouldn't that be tit for tat?
I suppose.
So there's no problem with it, is there?
There's no problem with what? With China flying into Mar-a-Lago? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So some country taking Trump or Nutty Yahoo for
Nutty Yahoo. I like it. I might steal that. How do you like that? Yeah, I think they're all. I think they're all in the loony bin. I think what they're doing is, and what they have done, and what they're contemplating in Cuba, the exact same thing with Raul Castro. I don't know if you heard it, but a couple of weeks ago, I took the unsealed indictment about the pilots and and Raul Castro and filing charges against them for murder in a United States court. Then the plan would be to do what let's call it Maduroing somebody. You fly to their country, you steal them out of their bed at night, bring their wife along for good measure, charge her with something. You know, one of the charges against Maduro is
weapons,
possessing a machine gun. That's against the law to possess a machine gun in a foreign country, even if you're the foreign leader. You can't have a machine gun. The Maduro and the idiocy of a grand jury is really stupid anyway. But because if you can't get a grand jury to support your position, you're a terrible lawyer, especially because there's no other lawyer going against you. It's just one side gets there and puts out the so-called evidence, or just gets up and says a few words to the grand jury and says, "Hey, what do you think?" "Well, sounds like a crime to me. Let's issue an indictment." But an indictment's a BS piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything. It does if you're on the receiving end of the indictment, but it doesn't. Proof. An indictment is not remotely is that proof of anything. It doesn't even. All it does is give an excuse for the prosecutor to say, "I didn't do anything. I just gave evidence to the grand jury, and look what they did." Or the opposite. He doesn't want to charge somebody. That way, he can protect his friends. He can go in and say, "Well, I gave the evidence to the grand jury. Just seemed that one element was missing." And that's what a grand jury is. It's a farce. It's crap. And it's crap because in felony law, you either get an indictment or you get a preliminary hearing. The only portion of each is if there's enough probable cause or some of the elements of the crime to charge a person with the crime. You have to have at least that to charge a crime. And an indictment gets rid of any proof because you're not questioned by the other side. The other side doesn't get to say, "Where'd you get this? Who told you this? Where did this alleged evidence come from?" You have to have a foundation for the evidence, but not so in a grand jury. You can do whatever you want, and people don't get that. They just hear this grand word, grand jury. Wow, that's a big jury, isn't it? That's a jury that's bigger than the other jury. This must be a very serious deal. It's a serious pile of crap, in my opinion. And so it makes no sense because there's only one side present, and it's only the prosecutor, and nobody gets to question anything that he provides to the jury. There isn't even a judge, by the way. Nobody there. It's the prosecutor in a room with a bunch of citizens going, "Here you go. I think somebody committed a crime," or "I don't think I have enough." You know, you can coach them. I mean, if you're the only guy in the room, what the hell? How can you not win if you're the only lawyer in the room? It's crap. Anyway, I'm ranting too much on there, but that's how I feel about the Maduro, who's basically disappeared. Where do you go? You haven't heard a word. He's gone.
Hey.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
So how does money influence courts outside of the United States? Everybody knows that good suit and a good attorney will get you farther than going down there and representing yourself. And that's buying a decision.
Well, it's the same in America. Don't act like it's not.
I'm saying it happens in America. Is it prevalent in other countries too?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sucks.
Well, it happens.
Hey, hold on, man. Hold on. You get going sometimes, and I can't say a word.
All right, please do.
Are you proud of the way the president is hiding all like this memorandum of understanding and him being proud of sneaking the Kuwait's oil out and paying Iran off to sneak Kuwait's oil out? And wouldn't you like to have an honest president?
I don't get to speak about his honesty versus dishonesty. I can tell you, I don't believe him. But hold on though. He may have more information than I do. I'm not trying to overly defend him because I think the proof is in the pudding.
Right. So yesterday he said the strait is open and
well, that's not true.
The strait's not open.
No, it's not.
Right. It's not true. So that's a lie. That's my example right there. And then he said we were sweeping for some mines that we had already found. He doesn't make any sense, man. He does that every day. He'll say the strait's open, the strait's not open. They don't have any military. They won't stop bombing us. We never get hit. And then you find out, they're rescuing a fighter jet pilot out of the middle of the country, and maybe they're not. Maybe they had a whole mission set up, and they were trying to get to
the uranium. I kind of tend to believe that, but I don't have any, except for the surrounding things. When you don't send in the groups that they sent in, and they were ready immediately to rescue this pilot. Okay, and they were. I believe that there was something much larger going on. And by the way, some of the research that I've seen on that, some of the opposing stories that I've seen on that from outside the country, I don't believe anything you get inside the country. I don't believe it. It's most of it is highly slanted. You're not going to get a real story on this side of the planet. And they have 8 hours to come up with some way to sell it to us because they're 8 hours ahead. It's daytime, right? Well, much further in the afternoon. The day has already occurred in the Middle East. And so you have a team of people over here, lawyers, politicians, and media, to get together and come up with what the narrative is supposed to be. And I believe that's something that occurs every day. What are our narratives today to keep the masses in line? I believe that happens regardless of whether it's Trump or anybody else. I don't think Trump's as good as good at it as others have been in the past. And he tends to. People have always excused it for me when I question it. They say to me, "Well, Trump's a deal maker. He could be bluffing to create the art of the deal, and make people. He's posturing. That is called posturing. Well, I call it being untruthful." That's what I call it. And the fact that and it's funny because I talked about it last week with Rubio getting on the Senate floor and talking and being interviewed there or questioned there about the latest bill or the budget of $1.5 trillion, which has gone up from $900 million. Why in the world are you two-thirds increase of your military budget? That is nonsense.
That's a lie right there.
Yeah, I know. And then they want 200 billion more on, $200 billion more on top of that for the war. And it's. I don't believe so. So I'm with you on this one. I don't believe that the Iran conflict is being dealt with truthfully at all, and I believe that the American interests have lost, and they lost when the Straits of Hormuz were closed. I think it was a huge mistake. And I'm not sure we'll recover from it in the region. I don't. That's why I was sharing the Israel letter. Now, a lot of people disagree with me, but okay, that's great. Have your own opinion.
A lot of people think that it's going to get a lot worse, and it hasn't even started getting bad yet.
Well, that's another distinct possibility.
Those a lot of people have been right about everything so far too. So
it's possible.
You know, sometimes it's just doomsday click stuff, and other times people have been, you talk about the scenario for a long time before it ever happened. You know, the Strait of Hormuz has always been a strategical threat, and the U.S. has always claimed that they could handle it.
Well, they can't anymore. The modern warfare is completely changed.
Well, how did they not know that, brother?
They should have known it. I mean, hell, I knew it, and I haven't been in the military for 20 years. I've been out, and
you know how many years ago it's been that I've seen Iran's tunnels and caves and their lines of boats in there with the. I think they put a picture of a martyr or something next to each one of their pieces of equipment. They're kind of wild about every strike is some kind of revenge for them. And
well, but if you die as a martyr, it's actually for their severely religious. It's a good thing. What I shared as soon as this occurred back in February, I shared the very well publicized and actually smart theory that the entire upper crust of the religion especially, and the government as well, were happy to die as martyrs and would not go underground. In fact, the Ayatollah Khomeini himself said that he would not go, and he chose to die there with his wife. They didn't leave their compound. They stayed right there, and they knew they were target number one. And that's not according to Sam Trapp. That's according to a very large contingent of people talking about what occurred in the first days of this debacle. So I'm with you on that today. I appreciate the call, and thank you so much, and you have a very nice day.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. And there he goes. I was going to get to the Maduro because I wanted to talk about what's going on here. The Guardian reported yesterday, in fact, that the vanishing of Nicolas Maduro. The billboards are being painted over, and allies are eager to forget the man they once glorified. His face is leaving. So for years, his face stared down from billboards and glorified the supposedly revolutionary rule of the dictator, right? And now Nicolas Maduro has disappeared. Isn't that depressing for those, except for the vice president? Her boss is in prison, and, but that's okay. She's still in charge. And she's, according to Trump, she's working for him now. This is good thing for her, right? I'm not sure if we can stay up to date. I wanted to check and see what we're doing. What day was this? Yeah, the latest. The latest is really not that late. it's there's not a whole lot of news going on. I think tomorrow, for the biggest day in radio, I will get on the federal court website for the whichever district. I think it was Eastern District in New York, but I don't remember. Is get on the Eastern District in New York and find out what happened to what's going on with his case and his wife's case, you know. And I feel the same way about it that I felt about feel about the idiot charges against Raul Castro that they've have been reborn. A rebirth has occurred. It's lunacy. Just look around you. We're at the pits of hell. It's lunacy everywhere. It's just the crazy, crazy days going on. Has anybody been following the World Cup? Anybody? I'm not so sure that anybody has. It's kind of weird. I haven't seen that many people. I mean, you hear more about it when it's outside of the country, frankly, and usually you do. I wanted to play for you. Where is this? We're going to take a little bit of a song. And there's Zabif Shiva. Did I play the Kotick song for you? No, I played Pikachu yesterday. There was an interesting Zelensky's gonna surrender meme going around that was pretty slick. I played Pikachu yesterday, and which one is this one? Now that is funny. The song is called A Drunk Cherry, P'yana Vishnya. And it's pretty comical because it shows a girl who wakes up basically with yesterday's drunkenness upon her. It's all dressed up. Her friend calls at the beginning and they talk about going out. She goes, no. I haven't been drinking for a long time already. Let's go out and have tea only, later. And so they get dressed up and she goes out and the friend stands her up and it follows her through her night of drunkenness again. And you hear the stories of her drunkenness. That one came out in 2018 or so. It was kind of a fun little song. But if you don't understand the part where she's in jail, the policeman says, well, she says, why are you putting me in a cage? What am I, a monkey to you, Stoli? Stoli means, do you think, or something like that at the end. And she goes, what am I, a monkey to you? And he says, no. He says, you're a very pretty lady, but an idiot. It's kind of anyway. It's a video that follows the whole one. Somebody should do something like that on an American song, and or maybe translate this one all the way because it was a pretty damn funny video back in the day, and kind of entertaining. But I'm a little bit on the loopy side, and I like watching interesting things and listening to him say, what am I, a monkey to you? Oh, and by the way, at the end of the thing, her doorbell rings. She's back home in the morning. They released her. The cop takes a picture with her at the, when she's standing in front of the screen to get photoed. Takes a picture of her, and then she stands around looking like, what's it? He goes, you can go now. And he let her go, get out. So she gets out. She goes home. She picks up some food and stats at a coffee shop and is talking about nobody likes me. Nobody likes me. The guy goes, whatever. And she goes home and falls on the bed. And then the doorbell rings. And when she goes out to the doorbell, it's the policeman carrying a stuffed animal for her. So a gift, and she's letting him in the house. Anyway, that's a drunk cherry for you right there. P'yana Vishnya. Interesting song. Good stuff. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going there today. It doesn't matter. We were talking about Maduro, and then we were talking about the old Trumpster. And tell you what, I wanted to share something about, and this is international because it happened in Brazil. or it was a Brazilian woman. Let's figure out what this is, because the story is just, there's a lot of things to watch out for with AI. We've talked about on this program, we've talked about hallucination that they talk about. We've talked about sycophancy. So the hallucination is completely wrong stuff, telling you what you want to hear. Sycophancy is, the sycophantic obsession of the AI to tell you what you want to hear. Okay, so if you're, tell you what, trusting it for things that you shouldn't be, that you aren't verifying. The old Ronald Reagan adage is important these days. Trust but verify, your information. I said yesterday, and probably several other times, is that the way to do it is you can't just trust the things that it puts out for you. You have to question it. You have to train it. And this story tells you one of the horrific effects of something that possibly could be something to watch out for when you go to the hospital. Now, this isn't an American story. This is came out today. This story came out, and the family of a Brazilian woman who died after waiting several days for an intensive care bed. They're blaming a new AI-powered state system for downgrading the severity of her condition and delaying her transfer. So Rebecca Cardosa Tenente Molina, a 32-year-old psychologist from Minas Gerais, sought treatment earlier this month for what was believed to be gallstones. Her condition quickly deteriorated, and doctors soon concluded she needed urgent transfer to an intensive care unit. However, in the new state-run Core MG bed regulation platform, that platform failed to treat her case as critical, despite Molina's relatives going to court to try to force a faster transfer. A bed was found 5 days later, 300 kilometers away, and Molina was flown there by private plane but died hours later. Her death certificate lists septic shock as the cause of death, but the doctors are still trying to determine what triggered her rapid deterioration. Doctors lost autonomy to decide if the patient was seriously ill, said Molina's twin sister, who's a lawyer. Samila Cardosa Tenente Furtado told the media. She said the AI system gave Molina a severity score of 6.8, despite her family's belief that she should have been treated as a 10. A patient at 8, a patient at 6.9 would jump ahead of her, said Furtado, adding that the AI-powered platform would not accept a higher level despite worsening test results. My sister, other people are not just numbers. They are not just protocols. They are not just a CPF, Brazil's taxpayer ID, that is thrown into the system, she said. The Core MG system was introduced last month, and state officials said it would make bed allocation faster and more transparent while helping classify patients by level of severity. The health department has denied that the system harmed Ms. Molina, saying that she was registered immediately and that transfers depend on bed availability and clinical needs. It said regulation remains overseen by doctors and that the Core MG did not change the clinical criteria or the method of finding beds. The rollout of this Core MG has drawn criticism and legal challenges from local authorities who argue that it has disrupted patient transfer. And Molina's case comes amid broad concerns about AI integration into healthcare everywhere. In the United States, insurers have recently faced lawsuits over algorithmic claim denials, and nurses in New York have warned about hospitals rushing to deploy AI tools without sufficient input or oversight from healthcare workers. So I follow some of those things on the AI realm globally because I think it's important. You know, remember what happened, for example, with the AI on the Tomahawk strike on this elementary school that killed all these children in Iran, and they claimed it was AI, and it was a Tomahawk strike on this elementary school in Minab, and killed nearly 160 people, mostly children, on the first day of the war, if you remember that. And it was the use of AI that people are bitching about. And the guy, CEO Dario Amodi, has said that this use of the AI in this strike with a Tomahawk didn't violate Anthropic's red lines. So the U.S. forces struck the school in Manab with a Tomahawk missile on the very first day of the war. And the institution was targeted based on outdated data used by Palantir's analysis and surveillance software, which incorporates Anthropic's Claude AI. So in an interview with Bloomberg, published last week, Amodi was asked whether his firm's AI played a role in the attack. We don't know exactly how these models were used. And what you're talking about is in a use case that doesn't violate our red lines, he said. While AI assists the military, a human made that final call, he said, stressing that Anthropic opposes entirely autonomous weapons and decision-making systems. I'm not so sure. The U.S. military has admitted to actively using Palantir, named after the 11 orbs corrupted by Sauron in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, to pick targets with the war in Iran. Do you remember the Palantir? If you watched the movie that was in the Two Towers, I think, in the movie is when Saruman was using the Palantir. It was the little crystal ball they used to see between cities. That's a Palantir. And so they stole the name from Tolkien. But anyway, last month, the Pentagon announced it had linked, top U.S. AI companies like Google, Amazon, SpaceX, OpenAI, NVIDIA, and Microsoft, and they made these deals. And Palantir CEO Alex Karp proclaimed a new era of AI-enabled U.S. military supremacy. According to Google whistleblower and Palantir insider Zach Voorhees, AI giants' defense of surveillance and use of the AI in warfare is a catch-22. It's like, hey, look, if we get very accurate data of your country, then we won't bomb a school for girls, he said, while discussing reports that data secretly harvested from Pokémon Go players over many years was likely used to enhance U.S. military mapping capability. The way that they're framing this is that if they don't have good enough information, they're just going to have collateral damage. You know, he warned that U.S. AI giants are pushing to be deregulated in pursuit of military advantage in using this technology. Isn't that crazy? Did you see that Pokemon Go story? The Pokemon, I played Pikachu for you yesterday. Remember Pikachu, choo, choo. Yatta boy, choo 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 choo. Maybe we should sing that. Pokemon Go helped the U.S. military map the world, said a whistleblower. That was published on June 11. And gamers have unknowingly generated targeting data later used to kill people. This according to the same Zach Voorhees. Ground-level footage from around the globe, which millions of Pokemon Go users had gathered over the years, was fed into the U.S. military, augmenting its satellite mapping for potential use in warfare, said Google whistleblower. Released in 2016 by San Francisco-based firm Niantic, Pokémon Go was one of the gaming industry's first successful forays into augmented reality. Uses the player's smartphone camera and GPS to overlay digital creatures into real-world locations. I don't think that anybody that was playing Pokemon Go had any vision that their data was going to be used to kill people, but that's what it's being used for today, Voorhees told the newspaper on Thursday. Said that user data was exploited to play more deadly games like warfare. The game's technology traces its root to a Keyhole, a mapping startup, which was later acquired by Google. There's been a lot of reports that a lot of these Pokemon Go players were snooping around foreign military bases because there was some sort of very valuable creature that they had to take a snapshot of. Now that is messed up. So, yeah, you get this very valuable creature. I remember when this game was all the rage, and people were talking about it, saying people are getting caught in Area 51, you know, you go in, or they were going to places that the military wouldn't want them to in foreign countries, and they were being run up. But if you can get in there and sneak a shot of this animal, the only place you can find it is here, so they were encouraging people to go there. But the whole thing was, we get in there, we get a video of the military base as it's built. So, you know, this is where the valuable creatures that they had to take snapshots got. And so Google shared this data with the U.S. military to help it build ground-level information that augmented satellite imagery. Two-dimensional pictures can be used to help reconstruct 3D terrain, and the details could be added later. Details would be obscured to photographs that were taken from space. With this, they were able to get a more complete picture of the battlefield. Wow. The whistleblower argued that artificial intelligence giants like OpenAI are getting rid of their internal transparency mechanisms in order to better aid what he called the U.S. deep state. Top U.S. AI companies have signed deals with the Department of War, said the Pentagon last month. Where's old put me in coach? I haven't even mentioned him today. Put me in coach with the Department of War. Let's fight that deep state. That's what we got to do. And but let's use OpenAI to bomb a children's school in Iran. How do you like that? They're fighting Russia on the Eastern Front. They're fighting Iran on the Southern Front. And they don't want to have any red tape that would stop them from being able to get the maximum military advantage. Well, it's probably true. Let's go back to the Straits of Hormuz. Let's do that, because I am skeptical. Let's call me skeptical. Skeptical Samuel, that is me. I am skeptical that anything is going to come of this Iran deal. Frankly, I don't see it happening. We shall see. But let us begin at the beginning. There's a dude named Oleg Akulinichev, who's the Orientalist and deputy chair of Russian-Iranian Business Council in the Russian Federation Chamber of Commerce. So he's saying the following. This is his article. This is his statement that he has put out. Okay. So the news on the latest U.S. Iran deal announced Sunday evening looks less like peace than a pause before the next crisis. I agree wholeheartedly. This is another pause. I saw a screen up here in the studio that said Brent crude is down to $80 a barrel. Wow. How do you like them apples? It's $80 a barrel. I'm curious as to, what's going to happen here long term. I have no idea, but I suspect that the Straits of Hormuz, and Donald Trump's, glorious statements about what's happening, I think are going to be short-lived. But that's me, and I'm a skeptical person. So the news of this deal, which pushed oil prices down by 4%, at first glance seems like a triumph of diplomacy. The U.S. and Iran have agreed to end the latest phase of their confrontation and reopen the Straits of Hormuz. Donald Trump, never one to miss a dramatic flourish, immediately declared on Truth Social, "Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow." Of course, who closed the Straits of Hormuz? I'm not so sure it was Iran. People knew this was going to result way back when you started the war and blew up a school, of young girls. Anyone looking beyond the market reaction. So why is this always Sunday night? So that Monday there's huge increase or decrease in the price of oil, and those with billions make billions more. Anyone looking beyond the market reaction can see that the barrels of black gold still got to pass through the Hormuz minefield. So this could be the most significant diplomatic breakthrough since the joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran in February, which triggered a conflict that killed thousands and shook global energy markets. But the Straits of Hormuz have been blocked by Iran for months, but are expected to reopen on Friday. But the agreement is not a final peace deal. The central problem remains Iran's nuclear program. Its future has been deferred for a 60-day period of further negotiation. While Tehran has already accumulated more than 400 kilograms of uranium, close to weapons grade, Trump, having abandoned the 2015 nuclear deal negotiated by Obama, is now being forced back to the table under far worse conditions. This creates a political trap because the Republican hawks have already warned that any nuclear agreement will have to be put before Congress. Trump, therefore, risks either being accused of weakness or seeing the entire arrangement collapse right before November's midterm elections. The second danger is Israel. I already told you that they're not happy. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Katz have made clear that the Israeli army will remain in these security zones in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza indefinitely. Katz has already warned that if Iran attacks Israel over events in Lebanon, Israel will respond with full force. So this isn't going away. I don't see this is ending at all the conflict in that area. It's not going to end. Iran has made a complete ceasefire in Lebanon one of its core demands. That allegedly was one of the requirements of the of this MOU and the later, within the 60 days. So this is going to turn Lebanon to yet another powder keg for Israel to blow up. and it'll be capable of exploding regardless of any grand bargain between Washington and Tehran, and regardless of this G7 posturing by the old Trumpster, trying to show a victory. Markets, of course, always move way too fast, and market analyst Sean Callow was right to warn that there's no detail in this, especially regarding freedom of navigation. This is worrying. Investors rushed to sell oil, but what happens if tankers encounter Iranian patrol boats next week? A sudden price fall can be as destabilizing as a surge. But the deal has foundation because Trump needs to keep Samuel Trapp happy with lower gas prices before the midterms. That's what this is all about. Every stinking bit of it. I filled up, so I drove from Florida on Sunday. And I bought gas in one location. Was it Georgia? Might have been in northern Georgia, north of Atlanta a little bit. I paid $3.39 for gas in Georgia. And I don't know if it's because their taxes, they're usually 20 cents cheaper than in Florida, but this was a good 60, 80 cents cheaper than in Florida. I paid over $4, like $4.20 in Florida, to get to fill up the car. And then in northern Georgia, some, 450 miles away, it was $3.39, $29. Let's call it 39, but it might have been 29. So that is what is going on here. These midterm gas prices have got to go down over the summer, even if it's artificial. So Iran needs sanction relief and the unfreezing of the $25 billion in assets. Western Europe states, led by Brussels, London, Berlin, Paris, and Rome, are already promising sanctions relief in exchange for verifiable steps in the nuclear direction. So the real question about all of this is whether the fragile structure can last 60 days. That's too long. In the Middle East, silence in the strait will turn out to be just the calm before a new storm. So this guy, Oleg Akulinichev, wrote this article first for a magazine called Kommersant, which is in Russia, obviously. And it's the quiet in the it's a calm before the storm. I mean, he's pretty straight up about it. So I think we need to be a little I'm not very positive of it. I don't think it's doing anything but prompting. So what happens? How fast does the 60 days go past? It'll be August. Sooner than you know it, and there won't be any real differences here, in my humble opinion. There was, I wanted to, this is a little bit worrying to me. Anybody been following Nigel Farage in England? Tell you what, he made some statements. Nigel Farage has taken to Substack to accuse the British government of infecting the UK with deep anti-white racism. He published a damning racism and crime statistics in an essay, much of which previously would have been unspeakable. He announced his migration to the platform on Saturday, moving to Substack, saying that the move to Substack would allow him to speak directly to the British public without mainstream media constantly distorting what I say. A day later, he used a new platform to put a 7,000-word tirade against the British state, which he argued has become a two-tier state against white people. And we can watch this on X. We'll have to play this for you tomorrow, though, because we don't have enough time in there. But Farage took aim at decades of British policy that has unfairly benefited minorities, discriminated against whites. He highlighted diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in healthcare, education, policing, and the military that he insists have been implemented to disadvantage white patients, students, and applicants, and promised to repeal the 2010 Equality Act, which, in his word, ensures that anti-whiteness is institutionalized into every aspect of public life. In healthcare, the NHS prioritizes ethnic minority communities and vulnerable migrants for accelerated diagnosis and treatment, despite white Britons having the highest mortality rate of all the UK's ethnic groups. In education, the poorest white Britons have the lowest outcomes of any demographic, yet are lectured about their white privilege and their responsibility to reduce racism, and sidelined when applying for university in favor of black students with lower exam scores, says Farage. In policing, he claimed agencies across the country have adopted race action plans and done away with stop and frisk policies that target black men, even though at 13% of London's population, this demographic is responsible for 61% of knife murders in the British capital. Now, that's a BS number, by the way. 61% of knife murders. I mean, how many you got that you got to pick it? None of the arguments are new, and the right has leveled accusations of two-tier policing at Starmer's government since the 2024 Southport riots, when Starmer cleared prisons to make way for hundreds of people arrested for social media posts. However, the death made these accusations impossible to ignore of Henry Novak. Crazy. Released earlier this month, body cam footage showed officers handcuffing Novak after he had been stabbed with a ceremonial dagger by a Sikh man. The officers refused to believe that Novak had been injured, allowed him to bleed out in their custody while they listened to his attacker's false claim that he had suffered a racist attack. And they handcuffed him and watched him die on the ground. The Novak case has triggered violent protest in Southampton and condemnation from the U.S. government, with Vice President Vance blaming his death on Britain's politics of self-hatred and the mass invasion of migrants. 3 weeks later, an attempted beheading in Belfast by a Sudanese migrant has reinforced Vance's claim. Crazy stuff. But Farage, you could go find him on Substack. Might listen to some of that tomorrow and follow up on this. I appreciate you being with me today here on International Flavor. Thank you for listening Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 9. Join me again tomorrow. Friday from 7 a.m. to 8:30, we will be here for Civic Outlaws. Have some entertainment for you and hopefully some big news. Look forward to chatting with you tomorrow and the next day. Have a very nice day here in mid-Missouri.